big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. Iron Man 224 from 1987. I do have a playlist. Right now I'm covering the Stark Wars. I'm going to cover Bob Layton and David Michelinie's second run on Iron Man. I may go back and cover their first run. This is the stuff I grew up in. I was in middle school and high school during this run, so I remember it very fondly. Here we got Iron Man against the Beetle, and then Force against Blizzard, and then James Rhodes is taking on Whiplash here on this cover here. So I like how the Rhodey's eyes are all black here. So Bob Layton looks like he did the cover himself here. So, all right, we're picking up right where we left off here. Force, the guy, Clayton Wilson, turned himself in, and the bad guys have arrived. And by the way, Tony does not have his armor, so he can't do anything to protect them. And so Force here says, they're going to kill me, Stark, and it's all your fault. So the title of our story is Low Noon, and here we have Bob Layton doing the entire art. So Mark Bright is not penciling this issue. It looks like it's being penciled and inked by Bob Layton, who is also providing the plots with Michelinie, who at this time was also doing Amazing Spider-Man with Todd McFarlane. Nice. I like Bob Layton. He draws everyone kind of bulky, as if everybody kind of lifted weights. So this cop here is going to try to get his gun, but of course Beetle sees him, and I love how Bob Layton uses a lot of screen tones during this time. So I admire the people back then who did the screen tones because they were not easy. It was quite a way to get him in. So you can YouTube that. Also, I like him, Bob Layton's inks, how he always on armor, he likes to do these dots in there. You can see them here. You'll see them a lot when we get to Iron Man here. So Beetle, of course, saw them reaching for the gun, and Bazat here, it says here. And I love in the coloring, making it just blood red here. So, and you can see he handles one of the guards, and Whiplash handles the other one here. And here come more cops here. And so they said to Blizzard to deal with them, and he does, and creates a wall here. So, all right. And so Force says, nice going, Stark. I come to you for help, and look what happens. And Iron Man says, I'm sorry, Clay. I didn't mean for this too. To which Force snaps back, intentions don't matter. You said I'd be safe here, but now I'm a sitting duck for Hammer's goon squads. And Tony thinks here, I know, and I'm on the same bullseye. So here we have all three of them. Nice on just a panel here, but this is cool. And you could have almost made a cover of just this image here. So, and of course the cops are like, hey, you're not authorized here. And Rhodey's like, I work for Tony Stark. I heard the commotion from outside and thought you might need some, and then help as he's stuck on the ice here. And so he goes right outside and says, Tony's Iron Man armor is in the trunk of the Mercedes, the one I drove us in here. But short of putting the suit on myself, which I'm not going to do, how the blazes do I get it to him? Of course, I have covered a good portion, not all of it, of when Jim Rhodes was Iron Man. So, like I said, I have a playlist. Feel free to check it out here. And so, Tony's like, I can't just stand by and watch them murder Clay Wilson in cold blood. I've got to do something. Maybe if I make a dash for it, get them to use their weapons against me. Um, and so he's looking at them, kind of formulating that plan. Maybe I can dodge quickly enough that they'll blast a hole in the outer wall, create an escape route, right? Or maybe Ed Meese, I don't know, must be, I don't remember who that was, will pose nude for Playgirl. Don't know who. I know what Playgirl is, but I don't know who Ed Meese is. Probably can Google it, but. And then it says here, suddenly, and we've got an LAPD, one of these SWAT armored vehicles just bursting through here. You can see hitting Beetle. Oomph, he says. And so it crashes him. And Blizzard, who is sort of new to the team, is like, don't worry, I'll stop him. But you can see in his eyes, he's a little bit concerned here. So he ends up accidentally getting whiplash here. And so Jim Rhodes opens it up here and said, some lieutenant told me this ramp tank was used to gain access to crime scenes. I figured this qualifies as one. Hop in. And so in they go. And after Blizzard got Whiplash all caught, he's like, you want some help? And he's like, shut up. So, and so they're going to go to this underground parking. They just want a few moments to kind of formulate a plan. And I love, again, the screen tone being applied here. So, all right. Tony's like, I'll send checks for the damages to the parking garage tomorrow. Right now, you better get to the Mercedes and sneak Wilson back to Stark Enterprise. While there's so much confusion, I'll try to straighten things out here. So, better, so he says, check. Better take your briefcase along, though. So, never can tell when you might need a ballpoint. So back then, Tony had to carry the armor in a suitcase. It was just it's not like nowadays where or in the movies. So during this time, that's how he put on the suit here. So all right, and so these must be the bad guys here, and so um so he says, I was afraid of this. I thought those assassins might take off once their target was gone. That's why I didn't want to change into Iron Man right away. Looks like the danger is over for now. Now for the hard part. So, and so, this guy here, the warden must be or something. You've what? And Tony says, I've taken Clay Wilson into my own protective custody, Captain, and I'll assume full responsibility for his well-being as well as his court appearance. I know this procedure is unorthodox, but I don't think he can do that. Unorthodox is downright criminal. Kidnapping, vehicle theft, interference with official police business. I'll have you brought up on charges so fast it'll... And then he's like, if I could just make a phone call. Why not? You're allowed one before we book you. Lieutenant Seeking, show this civilian a phone. And he's like, yes, sir. And so... so Tony calls the mayor and he goes, hello, Tom. Tony, how's the golf game? Great. Listen, I have a small favor to ask. So he actually called the mayor. So, and so now we have Stark Industries, which is a great redesign for it. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very creative even back in the day. So, it's one of those buildings like the Kingpin's Tower in New York. Just good design. So, and so I had to call a lot of markers to get a quick hearing. Pay your bail and get you released into my custody, Wilson. I hope you appreciate that, says Tony. Believe me, after all the years I spent as a prisoner, freedom is something I cherish. And Rhodey's like, prisoner of who? Hammer? Yeah, Hammer as well. So, Um, sorry, as well as myself. And so we're gonna get a bit of a rehash. So as I mentioned, I have a playlist. Feel free to check out the previous issue. Also, like I said, I posted the Marvel database of for this issue, so you can look at his origin if you'd so like here. So Tony says, I still believe in rules, but it's tough to follow them when your opponent keeps making his own up as he goes along. So, and so this here is whispering. So Tony and Rhodey are whispering so that Force doesn't hear here. So, in whisper, Rhodey says, "I don't trust this guy, Chief. Why don't you just turn the Force armor over to Hammer? Maybe that's all he wants." And Tony says, "Wouldn't work. Wilson knows too much. Hammer won't rest until he's out of the picture completely." Like I mentioned before, Bob Layton draws everyone as if they were a bodybuilder. Look at the size of everyone. Everyone is huge. Just goodness gracious. Um, and so Tony says, sometimes you just have to trust your instincts, and my gut tells me that Wilson is playing this straight. Back me, okay? So, and Rhodey says, well, it's your play, but I hope you'll understand if I keep one eye on Wilson and one hand on my gun. So, all right, and so now we're in another part of Los Angeles, and here we have our crew. I don't know which one's which, but we got Whiplash, Blizzard, and Beetle in there. And so they're going to meet Justin Hammer here. And so they are uh, going to apologize for what happened. And I think this is Whiplash. It wasn't my fault, boss. We could have nailed Force easily if it wasn't for this Gil kid. And Hammer says, please, boss is such a vulgar term. Call me Mr. Hammer. So I love the fact that he's always wearing this robe here. So, and here you can see a little bit where Layton and he didn't wipe that out. He just went. So, and Whiplash here again. Everybody here looks just huge. Everyone is on steroids. It was all Blizzard's fault, Mr. Hammer. You ought to can him. He don't know strategy from Shinola. And he's like, hey, give me a break. I did my best, so this must be Blizzard here. Tell him, Beetle. And he's like, well. And Hammer says, enough. I have no intention of dismissing anyone. Yet. My intelligence network is already working on a tip concerning Mr. Wilson's whereabouts. When that is verified, you will get another chance. One more. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll have to tend to a little gold transaction in the Yukon. Putnam will show you will you show these gentlemen out? And so off they go. Backlash. I said Whiplash. I'm sorry. He's like, pompous jerk. And Beetle says, that he may be, Backlash. But whatever you think of Justin Hammer personally, you have to admit that man certainly knows how to live. So they weren't in the house. They were in this big jumbo airplane. So that's awesome. And so we're here in a suburb of Los Angeles, and we got Scott Lang, who's the new Ant-Man, and he'll have a role in the next story arc that's coming up here. And so he's moving there, and again, look at everybody, just so freaking huge here. So this is his daughter Cassie, who I know she was a superhero. I think she died in the 2000s. So I can't remember. It was that whole Civil War era of stuff. But as I mentioned, I have that link to that website. Check it out here. So now we can concentrate on unpacking it all, says Scott. And Cassie says, "Oh, gee, Daddy, I just finished getting all this styrofoam stuff off my bike. Can I go riding?" And Lang says, "Well, okay, but just for a little bit. And be careful. I hear drivers here are even crazier than they were in Long Island. So he goes from one expensive place to another expensive place. He must have money." And Scott says, "I think Cassie is going to like it here. Once she starts school and makes some new friends, still, it's going to take quite a bit of adjusting for both of us. Or maybe I should say all three of us," which of course is his Ant-Man suit. Now, the original Ant-Man was Hank Pym, but I don't remember when Scott Lang became Ant-Man, but again, you can check out that website. And so now it says here, days are past. So we, so it just gives us a bit of time. I like that back then when writers would tell us a little of exposition. So Tony's calling the LAPD here, and he says he needs a little help. "I've recently acquired the old Gunshot Gulch amusement park. I have a somewhat unusual security situation there. I was wondering if you could increase your squad car drive-bys in the area. Thanks, I appreciate it, Captain. Yes, I'll say hello to the mayor for you." So, um, and then Tony says, "It's obvious that Hammer has ears in the police department. Otherwise, how could he have known about Clay's arrest so quickly? Hopefully, those ears will tell him about the Gunshot Gulch." And then Rhodey says, "I guess." Oh, sorry. And he'll guess that's where we're keeping Force on ice. Sharp plan, Chief. If we don't draw any jokers, and if we haven't already drawn one, and he points at him. So now we got the next day here at that amusement park. Um, and so that's it, Iron Man. And that was Rhodey here. "The controls for the park's animatronic systems are all online." And he says, "Thanks, Jim." And Force says, "I wish Mr. Stark had come along." "Oh, I'd say Tony was here in spirit, wouldn't you, Iron Man?" And then he goes, "Blip on the screen. We got incoming." And Iron Man says, "Get ready, everybody. It looks like the terrible trio has taken the bait." Blizzard says here, "This is dumb." And then Backlash says, "Tell you what, Blizzard, you keep your yap shut, and I won't say nothing about it in the kettle black." Anyway. And then Backlash continues. "Hammer's intelligence network is as widespread as anything the CIA or KGB have got. If he says Wilson's been tuckered in this, has been tourist trap, then never mind. I assume you got eyes behind that mask." And of course, here they come. "Back off, Backlash. You don't stand a chance," says Iron Man. Always the optimist. You didn't even trust Wilson enough to give him his armor. And in that case, you can't count. That makes this little brawly 3-1 affair. Rest in pieces, pal." And then Rhodey says, "Not so fast." And so he clicks a button, and now come the animatronics, which of course they dispatch. But while they're dispatching them, Iron Man attacks, and here he takes them. And Beetle's like, "Wilson's getting away. So what? He's defenseless. We'll nail him after we knock off Iron Jerk into the dirt." And Beetle's like, "Easy for you to say," as Iron Man punches him here. And Blizzard attempts his stuff, but Tony is able to disintegrate the ice, and then Backlash grabs him with that electronic whip, cyber whip actually, and then Iron Man takes care of him as well. So, but Blizzard tries now and puts Tony completely on ice, but that doesn't work as Tony busts out of it. But Backlash is not done yet. Um, and Tony says here, trying your whip again, Backlash, and with a power surge this time. Guess you've forgotten that my armor can absorb. And then he goes, reaction's getting sluggish. And Backlash says, I learned from my mistake, pal. This wide spectrum was designed to confuse your control circuits. I'm sure you could counter it in time, but time's something you ain't got. Give my regards to the angels, sucker. And so, and it says here, however, and you see this as Shakao, as Force has now put on his armor. Um, it worked, Iron Man, lulling them into a sense of false security by taking on them alone, and I'll enable me to put my Force armor on and catching them napping now. I'll hit them with the electromagnetic pulse that'll dampen their electrical systems, making their weapons useless. And so now the guys have no choice but to run away here. But it's not quite that easy, as Iron Man was also affected by the EMP. And Backlash warns him, the hammer told me about that EMP shtick. Our power cells should recharge within 6 minutes, but it'll take Force hours before he can hit us with another one. Split up. If we can hang on, we'll be back to full strength in no time. And Force says, I'm sorry, Iron Man. I guess I'm not used to teamwork. And he says, don't worry about it. We've still got 6 minutes. You go after Blizzard. I'll take care of Beetle. And Rhodey says, hey, Iron Man, I tried calling you on the radio, but communications are down. And, of course, that is related to the EMP. Iron Man tells him, try to find Backlash. So the three of them go find the other three here. So here we go. So they only have a few minutes to get them before they recharge. So here comes Rhodey, but Backlash takes care of his gun. So, and so now it's Rhodey against Backlash, and Rhodey grabs, and here is giving us a countdown of how much time is left here. So Rhodey grabs this stick here, and basically the two of them have a little fight here. And so he goes, time's up, Hotshot. My energy's building back, and these chucks at full power, they can cut through solid steel. And Rhodey says, too bad they're not powerful enough to cut through your ego. And he hits him in the throat here. And a Backlash is down. And so here we go. Iron Man's looking for Beetle. And it says he's got a minute. And Beetle was hiding underneath this hay and grabs Iron Man here. Iron Man, I guess also got his powers back. Hits Beetle here. Beetle says, that was a lucky shot, but I'm no greenhorn like a Blizzard. It looks like we have some coloring mistakes. You're up against the Beetle now. And Iron Man is like, I'm a bit rushed now. Remind me to quicken my boots later, as he throws a wagon wheel at him. You can see it hits him here. You make jokes, but you'll treat me with more respect once I've knocked you to Pomona with this. And Iron Man's like, wait, that's a central support beam, and the way these walls have been weakened from our battle, they could, never mind. And so Iron Man heads out, and Beetle's like, huh? So the whole thing crashes on Beetle. So, and Iron Man's like, that's one down. And so Rhodey, of course, took care of number 2. So now the last one left is Force. Now, so we're now 3 minutes to go. So we are going back in time a little bit here. So he's looking for Blizzard here. And Force decides, hey, let's talk here. He says, hey, kid, I know you're in here, and I know what you're going through. So this is 2 minutes, now 1 minute. I've been there myself. I want to tell you what it's really like before you. And he goes, bull. Power is what it's really about. And since 6 minutes are up, I have mine back. And Force says, it won't do you any good, Blizzard. Nothing you've got can get past my repulsor ray. And he says, please, I just want to talk. And Blizzard says, then I'll take you out with my bare hands. And he goes, no, you won't. My repeller field works just as well on people, which you can see. Um, and Blizzard is like, oh, that hurt. And Force's playmates are on the way. I better give this everything I've got. Of course, he's using now his power. Force is like, Blizzard, don't. And it's gonna send electricity right back to him. You can see him all of a sudden go and scream here in pain here. So he goes, are you gonna finish me off? And he goes, no, that'd be too much like killing myself. Looks like your partners aren't quite so concerned about whether you live or die, Blizzard, as they go. And Beetle's like, Mr. Hammer is not gonna like it. He says, don't worry, we'll blame it on the kid. And he says, and Rhodey says, I'm sorry, Clay, I was wrong about you, and I'm glad I was. And he says, Force, don't mention it, but things aren't over yet. Hammer's not a man to give up, even after 2 failures. And Iron Man says, you're right, Force. There's only one way out of this. I'm afraid you have to die. And so the next day here, you see Tony. Yes, Captain Waring, Force is dead. Tried to escape, flew into some high-tension wires and fried to a cinder. Yes, I know. Well, I suppose my lawyer will have to deal with that. And so we have an epilogue here, and it says here, Barstow Electronics, a subsidiary of Stark. And so this guy here says, this is highly unusual, Mr. Walker. Normally, we require an extensive background check before approving new employees, but Mr. Stark said we were to hire you on his word alone. He must owe you quite a favor. And this is Force here. On the contrary, I owe him. You might even say that Carl Walker's owes Tony Stark his life. So it looks like Force is on the payroll of Tony Stark. So, all right, and so we got the end here. Iron Man 224, written by David Michelinie, with plot and art by Bob Layton, making sure everybody looks like a bodybuilder. Like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. I hope you're liking this story. I really dug these stories growing up, and these are the comic books that I read that made me the fan that I am today. Thanks for listening.